Welcome to EPG Pathshala on the subject Social Medicine and Community Health. I, Dr. Vidya-mitra, Professor in Department of Community Medicine, Institute of Medical Sciences, Banaras University, shall be discussing the module National Policy for the Empowerment of Women, and this module belongs to the paper National Policies and Programs. This module has been developed by a team comprising of myself, Mr. D.K. Taneza, and other experts from the country. The learning objectives set for this module is that, number one should be able to state the need of women empowerment and national policy to achieve it, and second, should be able to describe the policy objectives, goals, and policy prescription of the national policy for empowerment of women. Women empowerment is an ultimate necessity for all-round development. By virtue of their sheer number, around half, no country can progress without the empowerment of the women. National Policy Women Empowerment 2002 was formulated and it is enforced. Action plans have been identified and 12th plan of Government of India has formulated and identified major contents and objectives to attain these women empowerment. Women empowerment means the process by which powerless women gain the greater control over the circumstances of their lives, enabling them to use resources more equitably and make decisions more ably. India has ratified various international conventions and human rights instruments and hence committed to empowering its women. These are 1993 Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. In 1975, the Mexico Plan of Action. In 1985, the Nairobi Forward Plan and Strategies. 1995, the Beijing Declaration, which served as a platform for action of women empowerment. The outcome of these things have been in 2000 outcome document adopted by UNGA session on gender equality and development and peace of our 21st century titled Further Actions and Initiatives to Implement the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. In 1950, just 3 years after independence, Indian Constitution gave greater equality in place in the preamble for fundamental rights, fundamental duties, and directive principles for welfare. In 1990, National Commission for Women was set up by the Act of Parliament by both the houses. In 1993, the 73rd and 74th Amendments of the Constitution of India provided the reservation of seats in the panchayats and municipalities of women also in the local body. In 2001, National Policy for Empowerment of Women was formulated. These landmarks, which culminated in the National Policy for Empowerment of Women, had certain specific objectives. The first objective was creating an environment through which positive economic and social policies for full development of women to enable them to realize their full potential. The second objective was the de jure and de facto enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedom by women on equal basis with men in all spheres, be it political, economic, social, cultural, and civil. The third objective was equal access of women to literacy, quality education at all levels, career and vocational guidance, employment, equal remuneration, occupational health, safety and social security, and public office, etc. Then strengthening legal systems directed for elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. The next objective that was set has been changing societal attitudes, because unless societal attitudes are changed, probably will not be able to empower men. And community practices by active participation and involvement of both men. The next important objective that was set, a specific objective, was mainstreaming gender perspective on all developmental process. Unless the fruits of development is realized by women, women cannot be empowered. Elimination of discrimination in all forms of violence against women and girl child. Building and streamlining the partnerships with various civil societies. Then changing societal attitudes, elimination of all discriminations and all forms of violence against women and the girl child. Next was, the last but not least, was strengthening legal systems. Now, before we come to the policy prescription, in fact, in public health practice, there are three approaches. One is legal approach, second is service approach, and third is educational approach. And this policy document for the empowerment of women has given due consideration to all these three approaches: legal, service provisions, and also educational approaches. Now, in order to achieve the objectives set in national policy for empowerment of women, a number of policy prescriptions have been suggested. The number one relates to judicial legal system. Legal judicial system will be made more responsive and gender sensitive to women's needs, especially in case of domestic violence, personal assault. Both the domestic violence and personal assault are on rise, and judiciary can play a very significant role in these areas. New laws will be enacted and existing laws will be reviewed from time to time so that proper justice can be ensured to the women. Decision making is an important area, and unless women are brought into the ambient of decision making process at all levels, probably they will be not empowered. That's why all measures will be taken to guarantee women equal access to and full participation in decision-making process at every level. Then mainstreaming a gender perspective. Wherever there are gaps in the policies and programs, women-specific interventions will be undertaken to bridge these gaps. Another important area is economic empowerment of women. Poverty eradication. For that, macroeconomic policies and poverty alleviation programs will specifically address the needs and problems of women. Microcredit systems, entrepreneurships will be achieved through establishment of new and strengthening of existing microcredit mechanisms, and microfinance institutions will be undertaken so that the outreach of credit is enhanced. Third is women and economic development. Women perspective will be included in designing and implementation of various macroeconomic policies and by institutionalizing their participation in such programs. Globalization phenomena is on. We have to enhance the capacity of women and empower them to meet the negative social and economic effects which may flow because of globalization process. Women in industry. Comprehensive support in terms of labor legislation, social security, and other support services to participate in various industrial sectors, so that women have no hesitancy in joining industries. Women in agriculture sector, for them, the programs pertaining women in soil conservation, soil forestry, dairy development, and other occupations allied to literature, agriculture, and will be done. Support services in the form of child-rearing care practices, including creches at workplaces and other educational institutions, homes, and for aged and disabled will be created. The next area of empowerment will be social empowerment, and the main input for social empowerment will be the education. Education is empowerment. That has been rightly said by Mr. Indira Gandhi. Equal access to education for women, special measures to eliminate discrimination, universalize education, eradicate illiteracy, create a gender-sensitive education system will be given due priority. Health, A holistic approach to women's health adopted and special attention will be given to the needs of women and the girl child. In the health sector particularly, uh, it will be adopting life cycle approach so that a woman gets benefit at every stage of her life, since childhood to adolescence to adulthood and also in the old age. Now, nutrition is undernutrition is very common in women, and therefore nutrition, right from infancy, childhood, adolescence, reproductive age, focused attention will be given for the nutritional needs of women adopting life cycle approach. Drinking water and sanitation, special attention will be given to the need of women in provision of safe drinking water, sewage disposal, and so on. Drinking water is an area where a lot of women are involved in bringing water for domestic use, and that is why a lot of their energies are spent in that process. That they also bringing water sources near to their home will reduce this gap. Housing and shelter. Women's perspective will be included in the housing policies and planning process. Environment, non-conventional energy sources will be promoted giving due consideration to the internal environment so that they are not become victims of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Science and technology measures will be adopted to motivate girls to take science and technology for higher education, because if they are involved in that process, probably they will give more dividends. Women in difficult or crisis or circumstances, measures to provide the special inputs for disadvantaged groups with special assistance will be also taken. Violence on women. This is a very serious public health problem. Violence in women is on rise, and violence will be prevented. Victims of violence will be rehabilitated. Effective action will be taken against the perpetrators, and measures to deal with trafficking of women and girls will be adopted. Rights of girl child. All forms of discrimination against girl child and violation of her rights shall be eliminated. Mass media is a potential channel which we utilized as an educational measure to portray images consistent with human dignity of girls and women. Gender sensitization, training of personnel of executive, legislative, and judicial wings of state with the special focus on policy and program frameworks. Enabling legislative reforms, particularly measures should be taken so that there is not gender discrimination right from conception. And for that, Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Act has been formulated. It is enacted to stop female feticides and arrest the declining sex ratio in India. The main purpose of this act is to ban on the use of sex-selective abortions, which is adopted by doing sex selection techniques before or after conception, and prevent the issue of prenatal diagnostic techniques for selective abortions. It regulates the use of prenatal diagnostic techniques like USG and amniocentesis by allowing their use for only to detect number one is genetic abnormalities, metabolic disorders, chromosomal abnormalities, certain congenital malformations, and hemoglobinopathies, and sex-linked disorders. Once again, I repeat that genetic abnormalities and other disorders, for that purpose only the Act gives provision for prenatal diagnostic tests. In Maternity Benefit Acts, subject to the provisions of this Act, every woman shall be entitled to and her employer shall be liable for payment of maternity benefit at the rate of the average daily wages for the period of her actual absence. She is entitled to leave and work for 6 weeks in case of from or 6 weeks in case of miscarriages or medical termination of pregnancy, and in case of tracheotomy operation, 1 month in case of illness arising pregnancy, delivery, or premature birth of child. Protection of women from domestic violence. First of all, if we want to prevent domestic violence, we have to take into cognizance that there are various forces operating in the family that leads to domestic violence. Those forces must be taken into account and attempts must be initiated to reduce those forces. Domestic violence occurs in many forms. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be sexual, it could be economical, verbal. And all forms of violence must be curbed. National policy for empowerment of women is taking cognizance into this. Prior to Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, under the civil laws for the domestic violence, a married woman can initiate process of divorce or judiciary separation. Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. This was formed in the year 1971 and amended in 2002. MTP can be, internal termination of pregnancy can be done if where the length of pregnancy does not exceed 12 weeks, one registered medical practitioner can. Where the length of pregnancy exceeds 12 weeks but does not exceed 20 weeks, opinion of two registered medical practitioners is required. There are several indications for MTP. Pregnancy may be terminated when the registered medical practitioner are of the opinion that, number one, continuance of pregnancy would involve a risk to the life of the pregnant woman. Number two, a risk of grave injury to her physical or mental health. Number three, pregnancy is caused by rape. Number four, there exists a substantial risk for the child that is going to suffer from some physical or mental or say genetic abnormality. Our child is likely to be seriously handicapped. The last reason for doing MTP, failure of any device method by the married couple for the purpose of limiting the number of children. Though it is included in the provisions, but all attempts should be made that intrauterine devices or family planning methods must be used in the rigorous sense, and MTP should not be taken as the instrument of fertility regulation. Risk to the health of the pregnant woman by the reason of her actual or reasonably forcing environments. So MTP has been taken as an instrument to assure the health of a pregnant woman, particular and child in specific situations. National policy for empowerment of women also laid down in its action plan has identified measurable goals to be achieved in a particular time frame. It has also identified a commitment of resources on the part of the government and other organizations, and also pinpointed responsibilities for implementation of these action points. It has also specified structures and mechanisms to ensure efficient monitoring, review, and gender impact assessment for giving suitable inputs and further guidelines for improving the policy, and introduction of a greater perspective in the budgeting process for women empowerment. Gender development indices have been worked out by networking with specialized agencies working in the coordination with evaluation mechanisms, and gender development index can serve as an important instrument to measure the progress in the area of women empowerment. Resource management is a very, very important. Managerial reforms have been taken and have been initiated through this policy. assessment of benefits flowing to women, that is gender budgeting, adequate resource allocation to develop and promote the policy outline, and developing synergy between persons of health, rural development, education, and women, child development, department levels, and other village level functions. It should be noted that in public, any public health program, we have to take into consideration four important issues. One is that whatever benefits we are giving, that must reach to each and everyone. There should be the instrument that is being used should be sensitive enough to give optimum development, and all sectors must join hand so that optimum benefit is obtained. And last but not least, the community, all the entire community must be involved in the process so that for women empowerment. Then meeting credit needs by the various banks and credit institutions will be also. So there should be enough insurance for adequate funds run the various policy prescriptions given in the policy document. Institutional mechanisms have been evolved. Department of Women and Child Development under the Ministry of Human Resource Development has been identified as nodal ministry. The National Council headed by Prime Minister and State Councils headed by Chief Ministers at the state level are in board to meet and biannually to assess progress, plans and other issues related to women empowerment. National and state resource centers for women are being established. Panchayat Raj institutions and central in the process of women's participation in the life. Partnerships with various voluntary sectors and organizations, involvement of voluntary organizations, associations and federations, trade unions and non-governmental organizations, women's institutions, dealing with education, training and research being ensured. Implementation of international obligations, commitments in all sectors on the empowerment of women, such as Convention of all forms of discrimination against women, Convention on the Rights of Child, International Conference on the Population and Development, and recently Government of India, in its 12th plan, has evolved various mechanisms for empowerment of women, particularly in the areas of economic empowerment, social and physical infrastructure, enabling legislations, women's participation in governance, inclusiveness of all categories of vulnerable women, engineering national policies and programs, mainstreaming gender through gender budgeting. Then National Common Minimum Program. In this National Common Minimum, a number of commitments has been made for the women. The first is introduce legislation for 1/3 reservation of women in Vidhan Sabha and in Lok Sabha. Legislation on domestic violence and against gender discrimination will be enacted. At least 1/3 of all funds flowing into panchayats will be earmarked children. Village women and their associations will be encouraged to assume responsibility for the development schemes pertaining to drinking water, sanitation, primary education, health, and nutrition. Complete legal equality for women in all spheres will make a practical reality, especially by removing discrimination, pre-legislation, and by enabling new legislation that gives women, for instance, equal rights to ownership of assets like houses and land. Now, just to summarize what we have discussed regarding women empowerment, we all agree that women are valuable section of the society, and by sheer number, if their welfare is not considered, their development is not considered, probably no country. So women empowerment holds key to all-round progress of it. India has ratified important international conventions in this regard and taken all their recommendations in framing the national policy for empowerment of women. This policy was framed in the year 2001. The policy laid down goals and objectives, identified important measures to be undertaken for empowerment of women by giving policy prescriptions in various facets. Even in the 12th five-year plan, 2000, given certain objectives and key elements and key objectives to be achieved by the year 2017. Empowerment of women, one of the pivots for reaching the goal was states. Various action plans are devised and operational strategies in cooperation with institutional mechanisms formulated for achieving women empowerment in the true means and all spheres of life across all sections of the society. Lastly but not least, women empowerment can be achieved by 6 E's. The first E refers to education. Education is empowerment, and in order to empower women in an optimal manner, it is desired that women's education must be given due attention at all levels of educational process, right from primary education to higher education. Now, second E refers to employment. If a woman is educated but without employment, probably she is not empowered. Because unless there is economic empowerment, probably she will not be happy. She will not be able to give its main contribution to the family development, to the development of nation. The third is equity in all spheres of life, be it social, be it economic, be it political, be it in any other sphere of life. Now, these three E's are very, very vital, but there are three important E's that refers to reproductive and child health in particular. And the first E is essential care for all women, irrespective of its ability to pay, ability, caste, creed, and so on. Then the next E is early detection of complications. Because if complications are detected or a condition is detected early, remedial measures can be instituted. Then, once complications are detected, there should be service provisions, and the last E refers to emergency care for those who need it. Enough mechanisms have been evolved by the Government of India by establishing referral centers, by having first referral units, and it is expected that if these 6 C's are taken care of, that will lead to overall development of women nation through women. Thank you very much for visiting EPG Pathshala.